Okay, today I'm doing a comparison of Learnworlds versus Teachable. This is another comparison in my series on course building platforms. I'll be ramping up my course building velocity this year, and I wanted to take another look at the whole landscape, and so you get to kind of follow along with me as I do this. So first up, we're going to look at Learnworlds. This is one platform that I've had in my radar for a long time. I've actually used them over the years at various points. You can see right out the gate their starter pricing plan is $29 a month, and you have that $5 per course enrollment fee. Now, this is very interesting because many course building platforms will charge a percentage, not a fixed fee. And I'll come back to this later, but you can see they have this standard three-tier package. I'll be focusing more around the entry-level packages for now. It becomes pretty clear later on once you start selling more courses, the distinctions between the upper level plans, with a few exceptions. There's a few things I do want to mention about Learnworlds, but to get started with on the basic plan here, they're fairly comparable. Of course, Learnworlds lists more things here, but a lot of these features they're listing are also present on Teachable's basic plan. Obviously, the thing that stands out here is the price point. You can see these are both monthly pricing tiers. $59 a month, obviously $20 more out of the gate than what you're going to be paying for Learnworlds. And you can see down here, this is 5% transaction fee. Now, why this is kind of interesting is that depending on your price point, it's going to be leaning one way or the other in terms of which one is a better deal for you as the course builder. Now, for premium courses, and when I'm talking premium, I'm talking $100 or more a pop. And the higher the price point, the more this difference stands out. So if you're paying $5 per course on a $200 course, that's obviously a lot lower as an effective percentage of sales than 5% on a $200 course. Where I found the Teachable pricing plan makes sense is if you are a lower price point but a higher volume seller, right? So if you're selling roughly more than 8 courses a month, call it at 49 or $50 a month, then it's going to kind of make more sense to look at Teachable as an entry point. Again, these are very comparable platforms, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but what they actually look like on the inside. But that's where I'm going to start off, because pricing, I think, is the most important consideration when you're launching a new course, because you don't want to get stuck on a platform and not making sales, just getting billed $60 a month while you're getting kind of crickets, or you're not even breaking even. So that's the first big feature that I'm going to look at. As a little bit of a digression, though, Teachable used to have a completely free plan. I'm not entirely sure if it's gone for good, but if you kind of look down at the compare all plan features, they have this basic plan. This used to be a more overt call to action, but I've messaged support. I haven't gotten a response back. But if you can still find this sign up link for this course, the basic plan, which is just a transaction fee, I think this is actually makes a ton of sense to start here. If you literally are just getting started, you have no idea what you're going to be selling, and you're really just trying this out for the first time. Obviously, as soon as you start making sales, you can move up a different tier, Pro Plus, as you start getting data back. But if you're just paying 5%, no monthly fees, that's ideal. But again, I'm not entirely sure if this is still offered. Like even just a couple of weeks ago, it was above the fold, and so that's something to just look into. I think what's ultimately happening with a lot of these LMS systems is that some people are using them just as a free course building platform, either like for an internal company project or something. And so there wasn't really any economic transaction value here. It was just people using it for their technology. And so I've seen this with Podia, and I'll link to the show notes where I talk about Podia's recent pricing changes, where they kind of remove this free or economy tier. But that's just a little bit of a digression on pricing in LMS systems. And this, I think, the beneficiary here is a platform like Learnworlds. Now they have kind of a more attractive pricing point, and they're kind of looked at as one of the up and comers. The other kind of consideration here I'll highlight is SCORM compliance. Now, if SCORM doesn't mean anything to you, it's probably not important. But for certain like educational use cases, SCORM is really important. And just like for reference, what does SCORM stand for? It's Shareable Content Object Reference Model. So basically, what this means is the course material is transferable to other platforms, other LMS platforms that adopt this framework. So Teachable is not SCORM compliant. And so what that kind of looks like practically is SCORM compliant courses have more text to them. It makes them more transferable versus Teachable is primarily video, which makes it less SCORM compliant or harder to make SCORM compliant. Again, if this is important to you, it's important to you, and if it's not, if you're just trying to sell, marketing courses and trying to make a living selling information, probably not important. I will say though that one advantage of having a SCORM compliant course is that it's portable to other systems. So if you did decide to switch from Learnworlds, for example, to another system that is SCORM compliant, you'd get to port all your material in, and it would be a fairly seamless process versus if you're going from Teachable, for example, to Learnworlds, because they're not SCORM compliant, it's not going to make as much sense as you're trying to import that material. There's not really an effective way to do it. So that's my little note on SCORM compliance. The other thing I'll just look at briefly is how these platforms actually behave. Now you can see here's a test course I created in Teachable. I do prefer the Teachable course building layout, and maybe it's a little bit of a nitpick, and maybe it's just my personal bias, but as you can see here, the flows, everything is kind of movable. Everything kind of is laid out like this. Everything, you can click on everything and you can kind of drill down, and you can see there's 3 layers of hierarchy, which just gives you additional options when you're creating the curriculum. And as you can see here, if you do want to add new content, it all kind of pops up here on the sidebar. And I kind of like this as a builder preference, but that's just me kind of personally. Kind of when you're looking over at Learnworlds, you can see they have a similar functionality. It's add activity, but it's kind of all over the place, like ebooks, exams, self-assessment. It's a little bit less kind of intuitive, and so not a huge nitpick. I think I could probably get used to Learnworlds. It's just I've been working with Teachable a little bit, and I think they've really knocked the course building out of the park. The other kind of I guess the final consideration I'd come to is look, if you're building just courses, Teachable I think is an objectively easier to use platform for just courses. But if you're trying to leverage any of these additional kind of marketing objectives, email or website building or things like that, I do think Learnworlds does have an advantage there. So as a general summary, moving forward into this year, I'll be leaning more towards using Learnworlds, mainly for the price point, because I just think it makes a lot more sense. I think if you're starting off, that would be my default recommendation, unless you are in that price range where you're selling high volume, lower ticket items, or if you really prefer that course building platform, that the user interface of Teachable, I could see that being a strong reason to go with them. But other than that, I'm kind of team Learnworlds. That's been a big shift for me over the last year. Probably last year I was more team Teachable. And then before that was probably team Podia. But I'll link to the show notes where I'll talk about why I'm not using Podia moving forward. But that's it for this comparison. Thanks so much.